Hello, Namaskar. Good morning, afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in any corner of the world. Today, we are going to talk about the tragic accident happened of Boeing 787 Dreamliner, the aircraft which was flying from London Gatwick to Ahmedabad and Ahmedabad to London Gatwick back and forth. So, here you can see the aircraft, how does it look like, and I have named it Boeing 787 instead of Dreamliner. I'll call it Deathliner. And why we are going to talk about it today, we are going to discuss about it. Many news channels have came up with different conclusions. Many experts have came up with different things and discussions about what would have happened, but they have ignored this big thing which I'm going to highlight to you, and really important it is. Now, we're going to look at the timeline and a safety breakdown between these dates. You must be thinking that why am I going back to June 8th, right? The tragic event happened on 12th of June. So I'm going to discuss it in the further slides. Now, the 7-day 77, what happened about the maintenance? Was it the issue? About 270 people? Yes. I'm talking about 270 people because on board there were about 242 people, but the other people were killed when the plane was crashed on the residence and a hospital as well. Here we are talking about the people who were flying this aircraft. The one on the left, Captain Sumit Sabharwal, who had about 8,200 hours of flying experience, and he was accompanied by the other lead. He was the lead pilot, and Clive Kunder was a co-pilot on this flight. Both of them unfortunately died in this incident. Wow. The other people who also died during this tragic event, yeah, you can see here in Dir Bakshi with their grandmother. They both passed away sadly. The lovely family here, you can see the software engineer with a big smile with his wife, who is a doctor, Dr. Pratik, is a doctor, Dr. Pratik Joshi, and Dr. Komi Vyas. I have mistaken with a software engineer who died as well, sorry. But both of them, these are doctors, and their 5-year-old twin sons, Nakul, Pradyut, Miraya, the daughter, all 5 were migrating to the UK together. Sadly, all of them passed away in that flight. Next here you can see Akil Nanabawa, the gentleman and his wife Hana Horaji, and a 4-year-old daughter, lovely daughter Sarah, sadly passed away. We have Raksha Moda, widowed grandmother, and her younger grandson passed away. You can see Akil Nanabawa's other photo, right, along with his wife Hana Horaji. Next on the list, Javed Ali Sayed with his wife Mariam and their young children Zayan and Amani. They were on board. The bleed couple, Fengal and Jamie Greenlow, make. Fortunately, they posted a video just before flying off from Ahmedabad. That is about 8 to 10 hours, and we'll be there. Unfortunately, the flight did not last even 30 seconds in air. Here you got Ranjita Gopal Kumar Nair, a nurse who was working in one of the hospital. I think Queen Elizabeth Hospital outside London somewhere. She resigned and she was going back. She went. She was thinking to go back to India forever. Fortunately, she passed away as well. Yeah, you have Ashok and Shobna Patel, gentleman microbiologist, passed away. Both of them on board. You have Ketan Shah, passed away. Unfortunately, was on board. The former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Mr. Vijay Rupani, was on board and was on seat number 12. Sadly, passed away as well. He was coming to see his wife and daughter in London. Unfortunately, he is no more with us. Very nice gentleman. Today, I think probably on 16th Monday, it was his his cremation carried out today. I think I saw it on the news. Khushbu Rajput, 21. She's a student. Well, this is a recent photograph with her dad. Last photograph with her dad before she boarded the flight. Yeah, you can see now Kishore Rajput, unfortunately, is outside the mortuary complex to receive mortal remains and dead body of probably Khushbu's. That's unfortunate. Hardik Avaya and Vibhuti Patel were celebrating their engagement and they boarded the flight coming back to London. Unfortunately, passed away. Kalyani on the right and Gaurav Brahmbhatt passed away on board. It wasn't limited to the people on board. Unfortunately, I don't have any data or photos of people who were from other countries apart from the UK. But when the plane crashed, I got all these photos, pictures from the resources like newspapers, online websites, and legit websites like BBC, Independent, Guardian, Associated Press. I've collected all this information. Fortunately, along with these people, where the airplane crashed, the people on ground were just crashed outside the airport in the area called Meghani Nagar. And there's gentleman, you can see the crying face. His son, he's a tea seller, a small tea stall he has. And the son died in this tragedy or tragic incident. You have Narendra and Usha Panchal. They were traveling to the UK for the first time to meet their son while they're studying here, probably. Bodies have been identified among the other crash victims. Here we can see Rohit Patel on the second right. He is not happy with that. The video is available. He lashes out at the official over the delay in handing over of the bodies of his son and daughter-in-law in Ahmedabad on Sunday. So that was a kind of argument. The staff who was under stress at the same time shocked and devastated relatives or parents are not happy. The anger is there, the frustration is there. Don't know how to narrate these things, but they know that they have lost everything, and they are just here to collect the victims' burned bodies. And there is a complex procedure required before, and to make sure that it's a it's the right body to the right relatives is really crucial to go through number of steps, and the government is trying to make it as smooth as possible. We'll not go in details, but I'll go through some more pictures with you. Uh, the family members you can see at the hospital of the body to for the relatives, probably in the local relatives where the airplane crashed. Uh, they are waiting outside to identify the victims. It was important because the bodies were not identifiable, completely burnt. So in this type of cases, unfortunately, the dental identification of victims, where they are extracting the DNA and trying to match it with the victim's relatives' DNA. So both sides' DNA samples were taken, and the tasting time must be a few hours at least. So it was taking time. So the lucky ones, here you can see this Bhumi Chauhan. She was really frustrated when she missed out this plane because of the traffic delay. But she's lucky. She didn't know that she's lucky, and she missed out this plane. Fortunately, she survived. There is another Dr. Umang Patel. He cancelled his flight after having a fever. His wife said to him that you have fever, don't go, don't go. And Dr. Patel has cancelled his flight, and he's one of the lucky victim, lucky passenger who did not board that flight. And this is the black box. The pilot said the last word, Mayday, was the box. After recovery of the box on 16th of June, as we speak, from some of the resources, I read that that was the last word from pilot itself, from the black box. Black box is really durable, and it can survive more than 1100 degrees temperature, about certain amount of pressure, atmosphere pressure, and it records most of the plane's movements. So it is recovered, and hopefully, we will be able to find out something more, or about the causes of the airplane. We'll be able to find out. Now you can see the actual photo. This is extracted photo picture of the video, which was taken by a 17-year-old boy. Probably he was taking uh, the aircraft because he was at the on the terrace or something, and he was taking this video, and unfortunately on that at that time, the airplane crashed. So this is the very last moment before the airplane started coming down to the ground, and fortunately it crashed within 30 seconds of its takeoff. Here, the same place, you can see uh, that the plane crashed, and you can see the smoke coming up from the same place. There was a big fireball before this, which you can see on the video itself. This is the map. You can see where uh, the diagonal line, which is showing the flight path, and from the airport, the runway, from where the diagonal line finishes. Probably the airplane took off, and over there the last signal was received from the crew. Where the red dot is which is the crash site, and which is near to the civil hospital, which is also known as BJ Medical Hospital. So this is the approach, and you can see the river Sabarmati nearby. Better picture or better graph, or with 3D Earth view, you can see here that's the runway plane going round to take a full length of run right from the runway. After taking the passengers, takes off from the runway. It reaches up to 625 feet, and height, and from there it starts going down, and about 4 miles from the runway it crashes on civil hospital of Ahmedabad, right. So here the Shard building, which is 1,016 feet tall, it wasn't that high either. It was only 625 feet, so you can understand what is the height the aircraft has achieved before, kind of in the air, which wasn't much. So fortunately, it crashed within 30 seconds. Now, if you see the aircraft map, you can see the seat location of and sitting plans of the aircraft, where the red dotted seat, which is 11A, that seat location is for the lone survivor Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, a Brit who is living, I think, in Leicester, and is the one who survived the flight. Here you can see Vishwas Kumar, who is been walking out from this place. Here, this is Mr. Vishwas Kumar Ramesh. He just walked out, and by the time he reached here you can see everything is burning like anything, right? So all the smoke and everything is here, and here's the gentleman who bit the death, as in the white tea. Here, the close-up of the gentleman when he was admitted to the hospital. It just crashed. The plane was just crashed. You can see in the photo of the airplane here as well. It just crashed after takeoff. The aircraft type was 787-8 Dreamliner, which was delivered to Air India, I think, in 2012. About 14 years old plane, and the fatalities were more than 270 people, includes 241 onboard passengers, plus the people on ground who were killed, different people. You can watch the gentleman's video, Vishwas Kumar Ramesh's video when he's walking out. It is all available on all the news websites or YouTube or Instagram. You can see a plain tail which is embedded in the building. We are going to see some of the you can see the building is kind of crushed. Uh, the buildings were kind of burned down. The building, you can see the rescue people, the rescue staff is there holding down the buildings, or the firefighter people will be seen here. The tail of the plane from the other angle, you can see here the building which was burned, probably the hospital, resident area or canteen. Right, so here you can see the search and rescue teams are there to see any survivors or the dead bodies. They're working there. Where the firefighters at the scene trying to cool down the flames. Now I was reading one of the sources, and it was said that about 125,000 liters of fuel was in the aircraft for this long haul flight, which is about 10 hours, 9 to 10 hours flight. That much was fuel, and after the crash, which became deadly, and because of that fuel catching fire, everyone died. Unfortunately, they were burnt alive. You can see wreckage of Boeing 787, a big wing. Rescue workers in hundreds on the side of plane crash, and when the bodies were found, the locals they ran to the place, and they were taking out the bodies, and whatever the belongings were there, they were taking them out, and then their bodies were taken, brought back to the civil hospital for the further things to be done, whatever the process needs to be done. The reports are here. You can see the health workers and volunteers are carrying the bodies of victims, and then after a day or so, when the rescue and everything was over, the relatives were called upon for DNA tests to identify their relatives who sadly passed away. A couple of photos of grieving relatives outside the autopsy room, where they broke into the tears, obviously having a loss, big loss, someone who they loved, their loved one passed away. Very sad thing happened. Search of victims, or the fighters, volunteers, you see the ground staff, they were they didn't see day or night, and they carried on their work for continuous couple of days. Unfortunately, another 30, 40 people died who were not on the plane either. Several buildings were destroyed, about 5 to 6 buildings in a row, as soon as the plane hit when it was crashing down in a row. So 5, 6 buildings were. One of them was BJ Medical College. This medical college, or the civil hospital canteen, was hit directly. You can see the wreckage. there, where there are two photos of mess hall before and after the plane crash in BJ Medical College Hospital, Civil Hospital, where people were having their lunch at 1:38. You can see how it looks like is a previous photo was taken in the same mess where at 1:38 p.m., which is the lunch time, all the medical staff, everyone was there. Probably some of the relatives of patient relatives, they were eating there as well. And you can see what happened afterwards. Here you can see the food people were eating. You can see the gloves of one of the staff, member of staff, I think medical staff. And here you can see the college hostel, right? Another photo, picture, same picture. Here you can see the investigation team which arrived later on to inspect the wreckage of India Flight 171 a day after it crashed in the residential area. That's what it says. The firefighters were working on the site, pardon me, of the deadly plane crash. You can see them, both of them, in that heat. 40 degrees Celsius, which is about around 95 Fahrenheit. And in that you have this kind of fire, it's really unbearable to work in that kind of heat when everything is burning. You can see aftermath, police and guards near wreckage at the site near Air India Flight 171 crashed in residential area. It's one of the residential area you can see here just before the airplane was there, and you can see this big, big blow of fireball you can see coming out from 125,000 liters of fuel. Unfortunately, people burnt alive. That's the saddest part. They couldn't do anything. They could not do anything, unfortunately. The flames swallowed the cabin in seconds. People were trapped behind twisted metal and choking smoke. The passengers must have screamed, agonized, desperate cries that pierced the night. Till one by one they fell silent, burnt alive in furnace from which there was no escape. It was it happened during the daytime at 1:38 p.m. and it must be too hot. Now, all these things, all these victims, what happened? What was the cause? What caused this thing? It took about 270 people's lives. Air India used to be India's government or national airline, which is taken over again by Tata. Tata started earlier, and now it was taken over by Tata again, sort of on the path of reforming the standards and everything. Are they really up to standard? Are the planes in good condition? The last purchase was made from Boeing in 2012. The planes are they too old? Probably the Dreamliners, they were not delivered in the lot that might be over the period of 1 or 2 years of time from Boeing. But you can go back and you can check all those records. I have one. But let's talk about what Air India is like. Are there any any uh, travel travelers experiences anywhere. Let's go to the. Here is this gentleman boarding Air India flights 170, same flight Gatwick to Ahmedabad, and there is a YouTube video on that. The gentleman is good. He is talking about his flight, going to Air India and all those things, going to the airport and coming back to uh, uh, landing safely in Ahmedabad, and he's talking about the weather and all the stuff. But there's another passenger along with him, and when there is something to talk about the seats or something, this gentleman, you can see the next slide. This one is flying from London Gatwick to Ahmedabad, same flight. Here you can see the crew members. These are all pictures taken or the screenshots taken from the YouTube video of that gentleman. Now, this gentleman, he says in the video at probably 9th minute that even if somebody travels in an executive business class of Air India, you will have the same thing. Even the chairs are not proper. This is what the gentleman says in his video. Unfortunately, this thing has been uh, has been proved by another traveler. Uh, uh, is here and here it says on the other traveler's YouTube video who flew from I think Chicago to New Delhi, and what it says on this YouTube video that grubby cabins aren't limited to coach a high-rolling entrepreneur who shelled over $6,000. The actual ticket was about $6,300 for a first-class seat in Air India was flabbergasted to find that it had ripped furnishings, grime around his seat, and a broke down in-flight entertainment system. Yes, you can see that on a video which was posted by New York Times, I think NY Times, that's the channel, which is I think 1.73 million subscribers to that. He detailed his wavetable in-flight fire festival in a clip with over 2.6 million views on TikTok. The flyer, named Anip Patel, had reportedly booked the high-priced airplane seat for 15-hour non-stop flight from Chicago to Delhi, India, the Independent reported. Right, so here you can see some of the pictures. Here you can see where the Delhi, this is not Dilly, to Delhi, non-stop, Chicago to Delhi, non-stop Air India, it was $6,300 one way or 250,000 Indian rupees. So here you can see the full screenshot of the channel as well, New York, New York Post, right? And you can watch this video. So comparing the economy class or the premium economy or the business class or the first class, you can see that it's not satisfactory. Probably the maintenance or the cleaning, why are they not doing? Or was it left only twice for both of the gentlemen who were complaining about it? Maybe. Let's check it out. Let's check the facts. And that is the reason, I made this video. Because all the pundits, they were coming up with different things, different type of logics. Oh, bird heat, engine failure, this, that, the flaps, this, that. I'm not that technical. I'm a normal human who thinks critically. And I try to find out that what could have caused the incident. And that is where we are heading to. This is the 63rd slide of 87 slides we are going through. I've spent good time over this. So, this industry, the whole aviation industry, can do something about it, can look into the safety standards. That's my goal. Now, let's come up to the main question. What may have caused the crash? Boeing 787 Dreamliner, that's the aircraft name, and I have named it R and M. I crossed it off, named it Deathliner. Why? Because it has claimed so many lives. So that's why I'm calling it Deathliner. Now, what happened? Let's talk about how these airlines they work. So what happens? They fly, they make money out of the passengers. What if the aircraft is on the ground and not in the air? Obviously, it's not making money. You don't want your aircraft to stay on ground. Otherwise, you'll make loss. So what airlines do is they try these possible things, the short turnaround times. Like, they went to A to B destination and from B to A coming back. They do it very quickly. So here it says when the aircraft is given short turnaround time, typically around 1.5 2 hours, the risks are seriously significant. And when we talk about this insufficient aircraft maintenance checks, we can say that what could it cause? When we talk about the routine checks, they are required to undergo a series of checks before every flight. Short turnaround times increase the chance that these checks, such as pre-flight inspection, hydraulic system checks, and engine reviews, will be rushed or overlooked. The risk for that, it can result in mechanical failures, obviously crash again, undetected issues with critical systems, for example, engines, navigations, or hydraulics, and even serious accidents if the issue is not detected in time. That will be the risk and the consequences. How about the safety of ground crew? With the tight scheduling as soon as the plane is landing, right? The baggage, everything has to be offloaded, the new baggage has to be loaded again. With the tight scheduling, ground crew have limited time to perform essential tasks, right? Refueling baggage, deplanning, or, or loading the baggage. How about the catering services? Everything. The risk, too much work, too quick, there's overburdened ground staff, crews, they may skip certain processes, right? It's humans. Or probably they try to do it quicker and less thorough process would take place. Or even in rush, they would end up making mistakes like handling the fuel, baggage, or passengers. Increases the risk of fueling errors, improper loading. Maybe the baggage were not tied up, or probably the loading wasn't right, or the safety hazards during the boarding, right? I think it's possible. The next bit, I don't know about this thing, whether the crew which flies from Ahmedabad or India to London Gatwick, whether the same crew flies back to India. So I'm not sure about that. But we should cover this thing, right? The reduced crew rest. If the crew, for example, if they are flying here for 10 hours flight or 9 hours flight, and then in a couple of hours they are going back, flying back, are they resting? I've heard that the pilots, they put the aircraft on autopilot. One of the pilot is flying the plane, and the other one takes rest. They take the turns. Even I've seen on very last seats of the plane that a couple of seats are reserved for the crew members or the air hostesses to take a nap or something for a couple of hours. So in that case, with this crew rest, pilots and flight attendants are subject to strict regulation on rest periods. God knows what happens in this case, what happened in this case. With short turnaround times, the time for crew rest between flights can be compressed or compromised, right? And the risk lead to fatigue, which impairs the decision-making, focus, reaction time, fatigue flight crews, and more prone to errors, which could be disastrous in emergency situations, right? So God knows, whether this pilot, he was flying fresh or not. So, but if the same crew which is coming to London is going back after a couple of hours, that needs to be checked. Passenger safety risk, rush boarding. High schedules can rush, right? So people are like put back as soon as passengers coming out. Sometimes we experience that as soon as the passengers comes out, the other passengers, they ask within 2 to 3 minutes, they ask the other passengers to board the flight. So which can be dangerous. Passengers not being properly seated or buckled, it could rush. The rush things could be possible. Unusual luggage storage could block aisles or emergency exit. Failure to conduct proper safety briefings. Right. So in rush, you finish off the stuff quickly. Event of an emergency, passengers might not know where their their exits are, or the emergency procedures could be compromised, leading to slower evacuation or panic. The next bit, delayed emergency response. So if limited time for emergency equipment checks, having limited time, what happens like life vests, oxygen mask, there are many things on the aircraft, including fire extinguishers. Everything must be thoroughly checked during the turnaround. A short turnaround, it might have skipped or done hastily, and the risk, everybody knows that any time of emergency and the equipment isn't functioning correctly, what's going to happen? It can escalate beyond the control, particularly on long flights where access to immediate help is limited. Increased risk of delays or cancelling. What happened to the cumulative delays? Right? Issues during turnaround and harder to resolve. Handling, fueling, maintenance. Right? Everything is hard to and on top of that, the aircrafts, the aircrafts companies, like for example Air India, who's coming to Heathrow, if they are delayed or something, if they delay, their parking charges are too high on Heathrow if the aircraft is delayed. So they like to take a risk to avoid those kind of charges, right? So all these things, it can lead up to the cancellation. It affects the passengers, crews, this, that, and now in Europe, if your flight is delayed more than 2 hours or something, 2 or 3 hours, then you are entitled for compensation. So they don't want to take risk paying back the passengers. But a delayed or cancelled flight could cascade, causing longer delays for connecting flights. For example, if someone is flying from, let's say, somewhere like Cary or Miami to Washington, D.C., and from there to London, then the connecting flight would be affected. Right? So, passengers' frustration, operational inefficiencies, if it is not quickly resolved, could be looking at much longer delay than anticipated. Right? So, that could a possible thing. Now, what happens on the aircraft system? It is a machine, right? All the components, are they going to get worn off? Is it going to get affected? All these engine oils and all these things, is it going to get affected? Let's check out. Yes, obviously. If we constantly keep on running, we'll run out. Anything, we use it too much without resting, it's going to get affected because the heat, the engines which are functioning, this, that. So short turnaround times can put a strain on aircraft systems, especially the engines. If the aircraft does not have sufficient time to cool down or undergo proper checks, certain systems like the engines or avionics could face issues during flight, and it can fail. Possible. Could be a higher likelihood of a system malfunctions mid-flight, especially on long-haul flights like this, which could potentially compromise safety or critical system fail. So short turnarounds, what we are talking about, all these short turnarounds to save some money of the aircraft service provider, of the conclusion. They will be making money. That is the conclusion. They will not be losing money. The aircraft companies, couriers, carriers, sorry, pardon me, they will not be losing money. But what overall happens with these short turnaround times? It helps airlines maintain the tight schedules and minimize this optional cost, but at the same time it increases the risk of safety issues related to the aircraft maintenance, fatigue, and passenger safety. Longer turnaround times, 3 to 4 hours, provides a buffer to allow proper checks, crew rest, and handling, reducing the likelihood of this kind of incidents. What happened in our Dreamliner or the Deathliner? It normally flies in between Ahmedabad to London, Gatwick, and Ahmedabad back. This is how it flies. Now, I got the flight summary table, which was taken from flight radar 24 or something, and they fetched their data from Air India website, probably, I guess. There go all these details of the flight which was there. So you will be discussing about in the summary table. We'll be discussing about daily flights and turnaround windows, and we'll be checking the table for flights with the date, flight number, route, duration, ground time, and so on. Right. Our death liner, if you will see the timeline, the overview is it took 8 flights continuously in 4 days, which is 96 hours, 24 times 4, which is 96 hours. And the dates are from June 8th to 12th. If it is the same aircraft which is flying from Ahmedabad to Gatwick, Gatwick to Ahmedabad, Ahmedabad to Gatwick, you have to consider this thing, the time zone difference. If the flight hours are about 8 to 9 hours flight, so it's 18 hours. And out of 24 hours, you get 6 hours. 18 plus 6 is 24, right? But you're failing to understand here that when from here, London Gatwick to India, when the flight reaches, India is already 5 hours ahead. The time zone is different, right? So looking at the table in between 8th to 12th of June, the total flying time is around 70 plus hours, and the ground time between the flights sometimes near is as low as 1 hour and few minutes. Let's look at the time. Here you can see from 8 to 12. This is the table, which you can see. Uh, when it is leaving from London Gatwick, it is called AI 172, and when it's coming back, it's called 171. Right, so 172 and 171. These are the times. These are the codes they are using for inbound and outbound. Right, 172 and 171. So on 8th of June, the departure was quite on time at 9 o'clock and 9 hours and 15 minutes by Indian Standard Time, 9:50 Indian Standard Time. It arrived, right? So the flight was about 8 hours and 49 minutes. There was no crash reported, and this was the start of the sequence. Now, it arrived +1 means a day later. It left and it came +1 means 1 day later, right? So 9th of June, it arrives at 9:50 Indian Standard Time, which would be uh, about uh, Indian Standard Time, yeah. And it leaves at about 1 o'clock. So 2 hours and 1 o'clock, 1:09 Indian Standard Time. Here, Ahmedabad to, yeah, Indian Standard Time, yeah, 9:50 it reaches. And from there, so 10 o'clock, 11, 12, and 13. So within 2 hours and 56 minutes, it leaves. And it arrives at 6:13 British Standard Time after 9 hours and 4 minutes flight. From here at 6:13, right, within 2 hours, right, yeah, or less than 2 hours, it flies back. It flies back, you can see, at 8:20, right? So again, this one was tight but possible turnaround time. Here is very tight and it's not idle. Right. Now, when it reaches next day 9:03 IST, it leaves again 1:14, right? And here it reaches at about 6:09, right? Again, the below recommended time of turnaround time, right? Uh, then you are talking about the 10th of June from London Gatwick. It leaves. Look, 6 o'clock it comes, 8:30 is back in the air. 6:15, right? So 8:30, before 8:30 is back in the air. So what are you talking about? Two and a half hours? Are you kidding? Like, you are doing all this maintenance, refueling, uh, unloading the aircraft, and reloading the aircraft, right? The crew members rest, passengers getting off the plane, new passengers coming back, the food is being loaded, all the safety checks, maintenance. Is there anything like maintenance inside the aircraft? No. Does it? Has been carried out? Are you kidding me? So within 2 hours, right, it takes off. Here, beauty is 9:20 IST, right, and 8 hours 53 minutes, which is about here extremely tight, it says, because it takes off 11:30 IST early, right? So 9:20 to 11:30, 16:36 British Standard Time. It comes back 345 minutes, so 54 minutes. Here it leaves a bit late, and It arrives at about 12 o'clock, this was delayed, I know, and this is a really, really serious thing. Unfortunately, a night before, on 10th of June, I flew from New York to London. I was at home next day morning, about 5 o'clock. A friend of mine, he calls me and he tells me that he needs my help to book his ticket to India. And I booked his ticket to India on 11th of June at about 6 o'clock in the morning, 10 past 6, British Standard Time. He boarded the same flight, left at about 11 o'clock, reached at 11:45 next day. He left for Baroda on the taxi, and the same plane which landed at 11:45 in 1 hour and 32 minutes at 1:17. It left for the runway, which eventually took off at 1:38 and it crashed. So the takeoff crashed, which claimed 241 fatalities and 30-40 people on ground where the aircraft hit. So here, what we need to talk about is the ground time, 256 minutes, 1 hour 7 minutes, 2 hour 11 minutes. Below ideal buffer, unsafe. Below ideal buffer, unsafe. Meets minimum safety, unsafe. Where did I get all these times or all these guidelines? I just Googled it, trying to find out what would be the minimum time, 3 to 4 hours. That's what it says, 4 hours before the turnaround. Here, what we are looking at, about an hour, about an hour. I don't know whether I am right in calculation or not, about an hour. But if this is the case, then it has to be regulated by the aviation industry or by the government of India or probably the whole world's aviation industry needs to be regulated. Next bit, let's check out the bar graph. I tried to make a bar graph where the x-axis we have got the dates from 8th to 12th of June and y-axis the ground time in hours. We made the lovely pillars. Green are 3+ hours and red, which is less than 3 hours, right? So here we can see only one. The other 3 days were not appropriate. On stop 8 trips in 4 days. Right. Airplane flying graphs. That graph's description. You say the ground times was less than 3 hours, marked as red, as I said, and only one day, which is 11th of June, which exceed the timeline. I don't know how, but it was delayed flight, and it wasn't this. This is my miscalculation on this slide, but it was delayed as we saw in the previous slide, and it reached about 12 o'clock. 11:45 it landed, and 1:30, 1:13 or something, it already to 1:17. Yes, it already left the plane docking place, and it left for the runway, and at 1:38 it crashed. So what does the ground time includes? It includes normally refueling. It takes like about an hour to hour and a half. Engine cool down is required. Yeah, it should be done, right? And it has to, once it is cooled down completely properly, then it has to, you have to run it again for 30 to 45 minutes to check if it is okay or not. The cabin cleaning and catering time again 34 minutes. Crew rest, which is obviously necessary, not sleeping on the plane. And the safety checks, additional safety checks should take 1 hour plus. Yeah, the safety check analysis 75 minutes. Engine testing probably they might have taken care of, I guess. Refueling, which is at risk. Maintenance check which is not probably done properly, I guess, or probably done in rush. Crew resting, we don't have any data about that, so we can't comment on that. Not seen. And turnover buffer, which is mostly around 2 hours, so which is not ideal, right? So again, you can say that unsafe gaps were in turnaround and crew rest time. We don't have the data, inadequate maintenance and safety check. Oh, so all these things are very risky if the turnaround time is very short. The crash, was it a preventable? Seriously, we could have prevented it by what? Less than 2 hours between handling and takeoff, right? Landing and takeoff, final flight. Engine require 45 minutes idle pre-takeoff, no visible safety downtime. Minutes after takeoff crash. It wasn't even minutes, 30 seconds. Literally 30 seconds. Could have prevented. Could have saved 270 lives. What this means for global aviation. So things needs to be considered. Ground time pressure, common across airlines, right? Maintenance shortcuts risk lives, and regulatory gaps under scrutiny post-incident. Now, for my viewers, I would like to request you to put comments on these questions. That should airlines be forced to publish downtime logs when they were grounded? Should they publish or not? Should they put it on their website for the maintenance or the safety checks? Compulsory. Should it be there? Please put your comments. Or the regulatory bodies, should aviation watchdogs monitor back-to-back long-haul rotations? Even the short hauls, why not? Every life matters. Please like and share this video, because none of the news channels, none of the experts have highlighted these points about the turnaround time, pardon me. None of them. And this is really, really important thing for many people's life, many innocent lives. Sadly, they passed away. And the families, the whole family. Unfortunately, one of the father of two daughters, one is 4 years and 6 year old, from London. He lost his wife, sadly died about a week, 10 days ago. And to fulfill her last wish, he went to India with her ashes, leaving his both daughters, 4 and 6 year old, with someone. And he was coming back, and the airplane crashed. He passed away as well. So both daughters, 4 and 7 year old, both girls or 6 year old girls, lost their parents in within 7 days of time. It could have been done, like, the lives should have been saved. But this is really unfortunate.